Have you wondered what is next for our wild horses in 2025? Then this episode is for you. I'm your host, Carol Walker, and let's get started. Welcome to the Freedom for Wild Horses podcast, the place to find out about wild horses in the American West and what you can do to help them stay wild and free. If you love wildlife, wild horses, and the freedom that they stand for, this show is for you. I'm your host, Carol Walker. Let's get started. My original plan for this, my first episode of 2025, was to say something inspiring, to keep up the fight to save America's wild horses. But like many other people after the election, I found myself struggling not to fall into a dark hole of despair. When you cannot see a clear way forward, it's hard to tell others to keep on and hold the faith. And yet, that's exactly what I'm going to do. First, the challenges. In 2024, over 17,300 wild horses were permanently removed from their homes and taken to holding facilities. The BLM is planning to remove at least 10,852 wild horses this year, 2025. The PDF of the roundup schedule is on my website with this podcast. There are now over 67,000 wild horses in holding facilities, which are now full, and the BLM estimates 74,000 left in the wild on our public lands. But here's the thing. Just to mention two herds I am very familiar with and visit often, Adobe Town and Saltwells Creek. The BLM has not done an actual count of these two herds since November 2022. Yet they are planning to remove 3,682 wild horses. And I contend that there are not nearly that many wild horses in those two herds. Adobe Town was the epicenter for wildlife and wild horse deaths in the horrific winter of 2022 to 2023. And the BLM just dismisses the significance of a major catastrophic weather event on the wild horses. They simply add 20% each year to the total, and this extreme negligence takes place in herds across the 10 western states, not just in Wyoming. Our appeal to the 10th Circuit Court, led by Eubanks and Associates with plaintiffs American Wild Horse Conservation, Animal Welfare Institute, Western Watersheds, Kimberly Curl, Chad Hansen, and I, to prevent the zeroing out of Saltwells Creek, Great Divide Basin, and half of Adobe Town, is scheduled to have oral arguments March 18th in Denver. However, even if we win, this roundup will most likely move forward this year. But the goal of reducing the herds to low AML rather than to zero. One of the biggest threats to our wild horses is stated clearly in Project 2025. I am posting the 2 pages, 528 to 529, which outline the plans. I am quoting now. The BLM's multi-pronged approach in its 2020 report to Congress included expanded adoptions and sales of horses gathered from overpopulated herds, increased gathers and increased capacity for off-range holding facilities and pastures, more effective use of fertility control efforts, and improved research in concert with the academic and veterinary communities to identify more effective contraceptive techniques and strategies. All of that will not be enough to solve the problem, however. Congress must enact laws permitting the BLM to dispose humanely of these animals. They're talking about killing the 67,000 wild horses in holding facilities. This must not be allowed to go forward. This is a time of tremendous change in our country. Doug Burgum, governor of North Dakota, has just been confirmed as a Secretary of the Interior. He will appoint the new director of the Bureau of Land Management, who needs to be confirmed. We don't know who he will select. The important thing to keep in mind is that we care deeply about wild horses. That is a constant. That will not change no matter who is in charge. So I'm encouraging you to continue to express that love and caring and determination and commitment to save wild horses, and to look for openings to move forward and make changes to help them. Resistance to the plans to exterminate our wild horses is everything right now. Alliances are especially important. There are many organizations and individuals working to save our wild horses. They don't all agree exactly how to go about that, and that is absolutely fine. Everyone has their own strengths and contexts and points of view. We need everyone who cares about wild horses. Everyone has a contribution to make. Reach out to others when you can. Not everyone will respond to a reached out hand. But that doesn't mean submitting to bullies, becoming a bully in response, or staying silent out of fear. Looking for allies and opportunities is my goal for 2025. Thank you for listening to this episode of Freedom for Wild Horses. To find the roundup schedule and the 2 pages of Project 2025, go to my website, www.wildhoofbeats.com, and go to the podcast episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Freedom for Wild Horses. If you want to learn more, follow me at www.wildhoofbeats.com for more information and for ways to help America's wild horses. See you next time.